It was a crime so heinous, people still shudder when they hear about it 5 years later. The murder of a pregnant Addison woman and her 2 children, her baby cut from her womb. Now an unexpected revelation. A trial juror from one of the cases says she had doubts. NBC5's Marion Brooks has exclusive details. Marion?
Mark, this juror served on the case of Levern Ward, the only one of the 3 defendants to receive a life sentence. The others now face the death penalty. And now, because of information about another person's involvement in this case, that juror questions why she didn't learn more at trial.
I think he's a lot of things. I'm not certain he's a murderer.
Ronna Shanks is a member of the jury that convicted Levern Ward. She held out for a life sentence.
I wasn't against the death penalty, but I did not think they proved. I don't think you can ever put someone to death in circumstantial evidence.
Levern Ward is one of 3 people convicted of killing the pregnant Deborah Evans and cutting her full-term fetus from her womb. He's also convicted of killing Deborah's 10-year-old daughter Samantha and her 7-year-old son Joshua. What bothered Ronna Shanks about this case was the evidence.
There was no blood evidence. There was no physical evidence whatsoever, not one iota. That bothered me.
So how could someone with doubt convict? Shanks said she believed the jury had to decide if Ward could have committed the murders, not that he did beyond a reasonable doubt.
Did the state prove its case beyond a reasonable doubt?
I think they proved that he could have done it. In the back of my mind and based on nothing substantial other than a gut feeling and, things going on around me, I'm not sure he murdered her.
Ward contends he killed no one. He also understands why people might not believe him.
And if you don't want to believe me, all you have to do is look at their police reports. It'll tell you better than I can.
The facts against Levern Ward include testimony of Patrice Scott. She was the state's star witness, and she testified that little Joshua, before his own murder, told her the harrowing story of the deaths of his mother and sister. She said Joshua told her that 4 burglars came into the house, all African American, among them Levern Ward.
So how credible was Patrice Scott? Well, there was some evidence that the jury never heard. And Ronna Shanks says that evidence may have changed the way she felt about Patrice Scott's story, and perhaps even the way she felt about the case in general.
The evidence surrounds this woman, Vicki Iacoullo. As we first reported, police reports show that Iacoullo bought and disposed of the gun used to kill Deborah Evans. Evidence in police reports reveal that Iacoullo asked a friend prior to the murders how to get a fictitious birth certificate and later admitted to making the fake birth certificate. Another man convicted in the case, Fidel Caffey, says Iacoullo gave him a Grambling Tigers jacket that was taken from the murder scene. And records show that Iacoullo asked 3 people the day after the murders how to get gunpowder burns off of her hands, saying she had been in a shootout.
Get out! Get out!
Iacoullo ultimately pleaded guilty to obstructing justice and a weapons violation.
Get out! Get out!
She declined to talk to us. Prosecutor John Kinsella defends the case against Ward.
The case that was presented against Levern Ward was presented based on the facts and evidence that existed against him, and that was presented to the jury, and they found him guilty.
But juror Ronna Shanks says she wishes she'd known more about Vicki Iacoullo.
I would have liked to know that, but I don't know that it was, would have totally changed my mind. The fact that she has powder, want to know how to get rid of powder burns and this and that and the other, that would have made a difference to me.
And I'd have a very serious problem with not vacating the sentence and the judgment and the verdict and granting a new trial.
That's what attorney Eugene Pincham, a former Illinois appellate court judge, had to say when we showed him what Ronna Shanks told us.
From what I've seen, I'd grant a new trial without even batting an eye.
Now, Levern Ward's attorney was able to get some information about Vicki Iacoullo in at trial, but not most of it, including the part about the gunpowder burns. Judge Pincham adds it's very difficult to challenge a jury verdict because its integrity is considered so important in the judicial system. But despite that, he says, in this case, he would challenge that verdict. Mark and Alice.
Any rumblings that it might happen?
Don't know. Right now, his case, Levern Ward's case, is in the post-conviction phase, so it still has to be looked at. The appeal was affirmed, the conviction was affirmed, I should say, but the post-conviction phase is the next phase, so we don't know. We should hear something about that maybe in the coming months.
Okay. Thanks, Mary.